Good evening and welcome to the meet. Oh, that was a great start. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of Council and Committee of the Whole for January 6th, 2026. I've got to remember to get that right. Bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil pour le 6 janvier. We'll begin this evening with the land acknowledgement and I'll pass the floor to Councillor Gagné.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Je souhaite prendre un moment pour souligner l'importance du territoire sur lequel nous sommes rassemblés. La municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest reconnaît avec respect que nous sommes réunis sur les terres ancestrales des peuples Anishinaabe, sur les territoires traditionnels des Premières Nations du Nipissing, Amagami et d'Okis, désignés par le traité Robinson-Huron. Nous honorons leur lien historique avec le territoire et nous valorisons leur contribution considérable au façonnement et au renforcement de nos communautés. We do this to affirm our commitment and responsibility towards reconciliation and improving our understanding of local Indigenous people and their cultures. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gagné. Merci. Number 2, declarations of pecuniary interest. Councillor Rivard.
Yeah, I submitted the paperwork. It's for number 5.1.2, 6.2.7.
Okay.
Because of reason it was employed.
Because of reasons of your employment?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I also have a declaration to make on 5.1.2, and that is because I'm currently in the process of obtaining an STR license. Okay, next we'll move on to the addendum and agenda. Do we need to approve? Okay.
It is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that the addendum for the Council and Committee of the Whole held on January the 6th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
Okay, so the addendum is just moving the property standards item that's listed at 5.1.3 to the February 3rd meeting. Questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Next, the
it is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on January the 6th, 2026 adopted as presented.
Thank you. I'd just like to suggest that we move the water and sewer budget ahead of the general government pieces so that we can work through that piece first, because that's important. The rest of the meeting looked a little heavy, so I want to make sure we get through the water and sewer budget. So if that's okay with council. Okay. Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have no delegations or petitions this evening, so we'll move into Committee of the Whole. And we will start with the Sewer and Water Committee, and I'll pass the floor to Councillor Pellerin, our chair.
Madam Mayor, yes, I'll pass it to the city down or.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So once again, Ms. Craddock has done some incredible work along with the team in regards to putting this before council, and I will let her lead this off and take you through the highlights and have some discussion about that. Thank you.
Are you able to put it up, Mel, just so we can? And we'll just start on page 3. The first part is the preamble on who we are. So as we did with the earlier budget, this is the staff budget. Though it is a rate one, it will follow the same strong merit process that the other budgets have. Yeah, so if you can flip us to page 3, Mel. So we actually did a bit of some forecasting earlier this year on when we did the water financial plan. So we did a 5-year water financial plan, but as I said to council at the time, it will come back and council will look at those increases, look at the full one. And that one that council was presented at the time was just the water. And this is obviously our water and wastewater combined and the process. The operating, though, there's was just changes in numbers. There's not a lot of changes in how the operations are working. Our big changes are in capital. So if we look at revenue, so we have, we're projected, we're going to end up over budget in revenue in 2025. So have actually sort of grabbed some of that growth initially in our starting point for 2026. Again, we talked a little bit about this during our water financial plan, that we're going to start to build in sort of a 1% growth into our rate revenue. This is just a little bit less than that 1% growth as we're building it into the rate revenue, but just so we're sort of capturing some of that growth that's happening year over year with the rate portion of things. Increase in interest revenue is fairly straightforward. And when you look at other income in 2025, what's sitting in there, a big chunk of what's sitting in there is we've had income that came from WSIB, as WSIB is transitioning to their new system, that they return surpluses to organizations. We had the same on the municipal budget side. And so the large increase in the 2025 other income is actually that return of surplus from WSIB. So it's not something that we necessarily expect to see over and over again. So that's why we just have this sort of holding the line on other income. And other income is our water connections, certificates, those types of things that happen with the water and sewer budget. Wages is not any, they're not any increase in complement. It's the sort of just the collective agreement increase in the wage cost. When you look at the 2025, because we had a number of shared positions that affect both public works and distribution and collection, the under budget you're seeing in the water and sewer is the same as we were talked about when we talked about public works. So we had vacant positions and difficulty filling some of those positions and sort of some transitions during the year. But because we have a number of bodies that are either partially allocated between the two departments, when we have the vacancies on one side, it does impact both budgets. So like I said, we budget as if we've got all our folks in their seats when we're looking at our 2026 budget. Moving down into the operating costs. Again, now that we've got that insurance number, again, allocating that savings in insurance sort of to all the departments, including our water and sewer, the sort of the ratio that the decrease is happening. So we could have this kind of windfall this year in this significant savings in insurance. That's $100,000. Now, when we look at reserve transfers down the road, you'll see I've assumed that we're going to take this 116 that we've got for savings this year from insurance and just put it into the transfer to capital reserve, so that we've got that funds building up into the reserves. We do have a lot of challenges in our capital at this point of time. Materials and supplies. Let me just flip down. Here. So, yeah, if you look at the history of materials and supplies, it has been a little bit all over, but has certainly been increasing. And materials and supplies sort of includes if we have pumps that are not capital. It's not our process chemicals; they are sitting elsewhere. But it is all those other bits of things. It's the pumps and valves and those types of things that are not capital in nature, but are still those acquisition of products. And you can sort of see over the trend that we've certainly had some increase in costs coming in there. And it is primarily an increase in cost, not a change of service level that we've had. Office supplies is just a small increase in that. Process materials. So process materials, and I think I mentioned this in the memo. So process materials includes our chemicals, and we've seen a really significant increase in chemicals over the last couple of years. It's been a really big increase. It also includes our instrumentation, our testing, and our sludge removal. So all of those roll up into process materials. So all the things that kind of that are a function of almost like a variable cost connected to the operating of our plants. And this is the operation of all of our plants. So in addition to the increase we've seen in process chemicals, we have seen some really significant increases in the electrical and in the testing. So both of those have, in the last 2 years, really increased. Our sludge removal has been fairly steady. And so that one is fairly constant with that one. But otherwise, this is just our increase in in those materials. Professional fees, it's just a holding of the own. It's those funds if we want to get a little bit of design done ahead of time. That's again not in the capital, or a little bit of work done with those things. I'll have you flip the can there, Mel. Oh, you already did. Look at you.
Paying attention.
Repairs and maintenance, a lot of this, there's a little bit that goes to equipment. A lot of this is our facilities. And again, the repairs and maintenance at our facilities that is not capital in nature. Our facilities certainly have a lot that are capital in nature. So this is just the repairs and maintenance at our facilities that would not be capital in nature. Services and rents is almost entirely Aqua. And so we've had an arrangement with Aqua, an agreement with Aqua, and it has a sort of an escalator each year. You'll note in my memo, you're going to have a draft agreement presented to council next week or next meeting. And there's been a change in how they want to structure their agreement with us as far as who pays for what part of things. I've captured all of that together right now in that same line as the Aqua has been as we work through getting the agreement settled. But they take care of our Verner water plant and also take care of the lagoons there for us. Sort of just monitoring the lagoons. It's our staff that takes care of the distribution and the pipes and stuff that are in Verner. So that's sort of really just the cost of Aqua. There's a little bit of cost to do with just the service agreements we have on our rail crossings here in town. So we have a little bit that's connected to that, but the bulk of that is our Aqua agreement. Utilities and telecommunication, just what it is. And we're seeing increases all across the board. I certainly earlier this year, I don't know if you remember sort of when I brought the Q2 of water and sewer, was really concerned about where our hydro costs were going to land and, you know, how it might leave our overall budget. Hydro is going to come in just about on budget. However, just built in a bit of a projection for increase in hydro costs in the following year. The rest of our utilities are fairly stable. It is just sitting in that increase of hydro, and our plants are heavy hydro users, heavy consumers of hydro. Vehicle expenses just a little bit there with just sort of they don't have the big equipment. The big equipment sits so it is just light vehicles that water and sewer has. So we look at where we are ending up sort of before we go there's overall, you know, with it looks a little bit misleading. You know, it looks like we don't have this, we've actually got sort of a reduction in the materials and supplies because of that significant savings in the insurance. But like I said, the insurance has been moved down into reserve. So it's just sort of that transfer down below. So then we look at, that is the big line with transfer to reserve. Included in the transfer to reserve.
Or can
Yes,
stop there?
absolutely.
I just think it's a good natural break.
Yep.
Ask any questions on the kind of before we get into the whole reserve position, just on the line items. So I'm sorry,
No.
you're chairing.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will let Councillor Butterine chair.
Anybody have any questions? I'll see if I ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just want to, because I'm not sure I know the answer to this question, but when we calculate, is the budget for water and wastewater really separate and they're just consolidated here? When we calculate the cost of providing water, is that only the cost of providing water, and we then calculate the cost of providing sewage treatment separately? And then that's because I think when the water rates are not just one amount, there's an amount for water and there's an amount for wastewater, correct? So are these calculated separately or not really?
No. So the budget is calculated together, and then the water rate is established, and the wastewater is just 1.25 of the water rate was what our current bylaw is.
So it's not the actual cost
No.
of wastewater, for example?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because the revenue is in two parts. You got the revenue for the water users Because not everybody has the sanitary system, right?
So we have a few folks that have water only. I mean, most have combined. We have a few folks that have water only. However, to Councillor Farron's point, you know, the rates are set because the revenue for the entire budget is made up of those two pieces, and it's not necessarily that linear water costs this much, wastewater costs this much, because wastewater is just that multiplier of the water rate.
Sorry.
Yeah, Councillor,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So the resident that only has water, not septic, are they paying different rate than the ones that are paying water and sewer?
They're paying the same water rate.
Mhm.
They're obviously not paying a wastewater portion. They're just paying a water portion, but it's the same water portion that someone who's got both services.
So there is a formula that one that only has water and one that has both. So that was the question. I think he was, if it's separate. Anyways, thank you.
it's not budgeted separate, but it is billed separate if you don't have
Mhm.
water.
Yes, because we have some, it's like in Sturgeon that only have water. And for example, in Field, they only have the sanitary.
Yeah.
Okay, Madam Mayor.
Just on that line of questioning, then I have some separate questions. How was it determined like that? What kind of modeling did you use to determine where that rate falls?
It's actually not a modeling that we've done. So that was, you know, it has been a multiplier of it. It's not unusual for wastewater to be a multiplier of water. It's just what the multiplier is.
Mhm.
And so, yes, I mean, from amalgamation, the multiplier has been the 1.25. What it was based on at that point, I don't have those answers for you. You know, if council was to look at, and you know, and we've had discussions not recently about looking at our water rates and commercial versus residential and things like that. That kind of thing would be the time to take a look at what is the entire structure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. May I continue, Mr. Chair, through you? My first question is in regards to the rate revenue. So when you are going to kind of predict a standard 1%, that includes whatever rate increase is being proposed in addition to new users coming onto the system.
No, that is just we're making an assumption of growth, sort of make an assumption of new users, or we have a few businesses that are metered, like just an assumption that before we even look at increasing our rates, that we've got a little bit of growth built into there.
Okay, to account for new builds.
Yeah.
And new.
Yeah.
And my second question is, you know, we always get that number, that 1% equals.
Oh, yes.
So if I could get that number from you.
1% is 68,200.
Um. Sorry, I'm going through my notes. Moving on to the aqua, the services and rents. When you were doing the budget for 2026, we're in negotiations. We don't know where that's gonna land exactly. Like, so right now, where does our contract with them end?
So we do have a sort of the proposal in front of us with you know, a base rate with a CPI escalator, and then we've always had within our existing structure where there's, you know, they take care of chemicals up to this point, and they take care of natural gas up to this point, and if there's anything beyond that, we have this reconciliation at the end of the year. They're just going to proposing transferring those directly out to us, and so I've done this assumptions. We were paying all those costs all along. It's just going to look a little different. So I've just done, you know, chemicals have been in this range, and so done those kind of forecasts that we might have with Aqua beyond just that base rate now.
And once the new agreement is signed, is that a fixed term or is there an exit clause?
There's an exit clause.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So I guess, for the funds that have service like does the septic system.
Yeah.
So you would have figures on what this community would cost?
No.
Or is it
No, it's a global, it's not based on.
global, like field, their service, you don't have an amount for?
No.
For that town?
No.
Because the thing that the bylaw that we're going to be implementing on taking out the rainwater from that system, we would see a difference at the end of the year. Once that bylaw is implemented, then we would see a difference in the cost, of operation, would we not?
Potentially. I mean, what we'd have is less problems where we have, the system struggling. I don't know, Ms. Henning, if it's going to actually sort of save in costs, but no, we don't have that kind of area rating for our water. We've got a water and wastewater system, and the rates are applied across it. Quite honestly, if we started to break down that the residents that field that were connected to the water system needed to pay for the wastewater system in field alone, it would be untenable. And the same with we're looking at doing this expansion to Verner. If we turned around and said, well, we're going to put that all on just the few households that are connected in Verner. We have a water system. It's a municipal water system. It has a number of different pieces. And so we have always budgeted across the system, regardless of where your address is.
Okay, but excuse me, if I may, my point was if once we've implemented this, if we would see a difference. So we'll see it in that global,
Yeah, in the global.
figure. Just to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just have one question on the vehicle expenses line. So, this year the projection over what we budgeted. And I understand that there's fluctuations. You can't really expect it. One vehicle needs new brakes and this one needs this and this one needs that. How do you cover that within? So, once you kind of hit your budget line on something, is it within the operating budget where you would move from one line to the other? So if there was you had kind of surplus in repairs and maintenance, you would kind of move it over to cover the shortfall in vehicle expenses?
Along that line, we don't actually move it over. And I always joke with Ms. Henning that when they hit the budget, they just need to park their vehicles. And she tells me that's not possible. But yeah, and so we actually have an operating budget policy that speaks to those types of things, so that, yeah, if we've got a line that's running over, then I work with the CAO and the department manager who make sure that we've got control of the line, what's going on with that line. Is there room within the budget to absorb that overage and things like that? And then the threshold at the point where we're going to come back and say to council, we've got a real problem in this line, or this line's going to cause a problem in the entire budget and things like that. At what point those things get triggered, so that, so if we have small variations, we're not coming back every time we've got a small variation, because it is just being able to be absorbed within the budget. But we've got big things going on that council's aware that we've got some big things going on. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one. Going back to the processing material, like for Aqua, you say like there's some kind of, not a cap, but they do so much for so much.
Mhm.
And let's say the last year, I think they've been really pushing it, trying to find options and different material. So as that cost increase, or is that part of the agreement that was before?
So over the last, I'd say 2 years, the same as we've seen an increase in cost in the materials. at the Verner plant as well. So our old agreement with Aqua included like $23,000 worth of material or of processing chemicals or something around that line. And we've been seeing closer to the 50,000 at the plant. So, it's certainly, and then we pay that, so that just comes as a reconciliation to us at the end of the year and we pay that difference. So, absolutely, the same increase in cost and process chemical costs that we've seen on our side has been reflected with what's been happening at Verner as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it. Go on.
Okay, so I'm just going to touch sort of a few parts on here because a lot of this is again that the what happens with the capital, and we will just talk about the capital projects separately. So the transfer to reserve, and that's sort of a big change we have there in that let me just so as I mentioned, we've started with where we were originally. It took the $117,000 that was savings in the insurance and sort of moved it into transfer reserve. One of the other things that I didn't mention as we were going through the otil part is that, and I don't know if council remember from when we were doing the 2025 budget, but in 2025, one of our water sewer loans was completed and paid. So in 2025, we had to budget for just a portion of that loan payment, and we put the rest into reserve in 2025. And so now that the whole thing is paid off, that last little bit, sort of $83,000 is that last bit that we would have had savings in payments and interest on our loan. And so I've also allocated that to the transfer to reserve. In addition to that, I've added sort of as new money, as opposed to just this rearranging of money, proposed an additional $120,000 being transferred into reserve for the water and sewer reserve. Now, historically, it was quite some time ago. I think it was probably 2 terms ago, we did a real push on building up that reserve in water and sewer, and then we kind of coasted for a while. And when we talk about capital and we look at what's coming up and the work, and again, trying to tie the work that Public Works is doing at the same time that water and sewer is doing, there again, we've got a significant amount of work to do. And so, the real increase is this amount sitting into reserve. So the only part in that increase in the reserve that is sort of new money is this $120,000. All the other amounts is just the reallocation from other lines in the operating that come through. The contribution from reserve and funding is just part of how we pay for our capital, and we'll talk about that as we get to capital. The other revenue is an assumption on financing with an assumption on starting that Verner project. So a combination if we're successful in funding plus financing, or just financing if that's the way it turns out to be, but that's what that other revenue is. And so that's just connected to the Verner part of things. Payments on loans, that little decrease because of the fact that we've got the one loan paid off now. Before we hop to capital, I'll take you just to the bottom of that page in the 2025 column. So you'll see a projection of a surplus there, and more than we've seen in the last few years. And actually, again, if you look at where we were on Q2, it's certainly more than I was expecting as we sort of started the year through. So that's kind of the projected reserve at this point. When we look at what the general reserve, because water and sewer maintains dedicated reserves and general reserves, it does bring the general reserve is going to be in the 2.4 million if all the surplus is transferred into the general reserve, or if the overall surplus is transferred into the general reserve. Same discussion we have with the tax levy one. What is the right number on that? And there's not a magic number. It has a lot to do with what your comfort level is, what we think, our risk is. It is funds that, even though it's in the general reserve, that can be, I don't want to use the word liberated, but the council can say, hey, you know what, we've got something big happening this year. I want to take it from general reserve and use it for something else within the water and sewer budget. But just so you know, that's sort of where we're gonna potentially end with the water and sewer budget. So, Mr. Chair, did you want to take another pause before we hop into capital?
Any other questions at this point? Yes, Councilor, you.
You mentioned the one that we finished in 2025 has been transferred to transfer to reserve.
Yes.
How much was that loan per year?
So we only had we only had, sort of a portion of it in 2025 because it paid out in May. So there was $83,000 connected to the loan that we moved to the transfer to reserve.
How much are we transferring to reserve this year?
Overall, the total,
Just from the loan, I mean.
oh, just,
That's what we did. We didn't say it's a saving now because the loan is paid off.
Yeah.
We're keeping that money, we're putting it into reserve, right?
that's the 83,000, yes.
Okay, 83,000 per year?
83,000 this year. We had a portion last year because it was like a,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So it would be 83, not quite 83,000 per year that we were paying.
no, it would be more than that because it was just,
Partially.
yeah, partial year. It paid off in May. So the 83,000 is sort of a 5-month,
Okay, so
Representative.
what would be the yearly?
total amount that we changed.
It's really something that we don't have to pay anymore, so it's
So the loan that paid off was a, 200, just over $200,000 a year, $101,000 a year.
and you know offhand what was the loan for and when it began?
Yeah, so that was 2010, and it was a loan to finance the municipal portion of it. It was referred to as the COMRIF, but it was some of this. So we did a number of phases of storm sewer separation in the downtown core here, and so we had a loan for 2009 that is still ongoing. And then we had a 2010 loan, all related to, we had a funding, and it was to cover the municipal portion for a lot of work that was done in the downtown core.
It's not me.
Along the same lines, so you can keep your brain in one lane. What was the total amount when it was issued, 2010? And so that would have been a 15-year term. Excuse me.
$2,150,000.
Just out of curiosity, you said it was too long around these times for the same work?
It was different phases of the same work, but yes, for the same work, yeah.
So now we're doing think a little different. Budgeting for that, we're not, we haven't taken out any loans lately for that.
No, we haven't taken out any loans lately for that. Now, in doing the proposed Verna project, we will be back into financing for that, yes.
Any questions? No. Okay, no. No. Oh, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, we're just gonna still be on the loan there for a second. So there's a remaining loan from 2009.
Yep.
And we pay $902,000 a year.
No, there's actually two loans. There's another loan that from before that, there was a bit of a consolidation loan at the time of amalgamation, and then at the time of when they did the shuffling around public utilities and all the rest, there was sort of just a sort of refinancing type loan that happened. It was renewed slightly before this time and sort of had some amounts added onto, but it was.
Yeah, I think.
It was Yeah, it was renewed, I think, in 2007, but I think and they refinanced it and packaged it up in 2007. I think it originally started back in 04, 02. It was an old one, and it was a fairly significant one to start that. So our loans pay out in 2027 and 2029 for those last two loans.
That was my next question, so thank you.
So they will be paid in 20 years,
Yeah,
2 years.
I can't believe it's a couple of years, but yes.
So that was a long-term debt.
Yeah, yeah.
Initially, out of curiosity again, initially, from amalgamation, so who was in trouble when we all amalgamate?
I wouldn't want to say without going back and
It's-
absolutely confirming. You know, I know the story, but I'd have to go back and actually check all the details. Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah.
Okay, we can move on.
So if we're looking at yeah, we touched this really briefly on the reserve position. So if we look at capital, so this is this sort of new projects. There are a couple projects carrying over. One being the project, the wastewater plant. So this is projects, and it was a bit of a tough go when we did the water financial plan. I had Ms. and Mr. Ming sort of go through their capital and get their capital, you know, to a level that was achievable. And then by the time we got back to actually doing this presentation again, there was already some shifting around of things. So it is a really challenging capital budget. I'll take you through the kind of just the numbers on pieces there. And Ms. Henning is here so we'll tag team on the details of the project. So we have pieces with just continued maintenance at our plants to start with. And so we've got ongoing work at our wastewater treatment plant. Most of this is sort of equipment that it runs the pieces inside things, as well as just a little bit for security cameras, but all the rest is sort of part of the operations of the wastewater plant. This is all within the Sturgeon wastewater plant. Let me just come down. Yeah. So, and again, the water treatment, again, it's just sort of little things that sort of add up. You'll see that within within the water plant, we are now getting to a point where we're doing kind of this, we've got replacement plans so that we're doing sort of one pump a year, one step a year. So we have this continuous sort of turnover of getting our equipment updated. So sort of 225,000 at our water plant. And again, if we look at distribution collection, this is where the big projects are and where sort of our challenges mostly lie. So John Street, this was actually the ongoing piece of John Street. So we awarded a project for the Nipissing to Clark. It's a combined public works and water and sewer project. This is the sort of the water and sewer portion. A piece of this is still funded. We had funding that was to sort of this whole project initially. Now, as costs went up, we're not going to be able to get the whole project done within the funding, but a portion of this is still funded by the ICIP Green Fund, and the rest is municipal. The ICIP fund funded just the water portion, and it was a 73% funding application. The wastewater was still municipal cost, and at the same time, we were doing stormwater and sidewalks that was on the public works side of things. Borgo, again, this is a shared project with Public Works. It's that housing enabled water systems, and so it was funding that we did receive. Again, it's 73% funded, and the actual cost is shared between Public Works and water and sewer. I think the total estimated cost is just over $1 million. So a lot of it is the infrastructure in the ground, but there is a portion that's sitting with Public Works as well. So the Verner this is just sort of, an estimate of what we'll be able to get done in year one, with a lot of this being design. And hopefully we get some started in the ground, but again, this is just getting the expansion, the Vernon water expansion started. Council will recall that it was about a $24 million estimate, and we sort of have it phased out over probably 3 years in order to get it done. So not a lot in the first year as we kind of get it rolling. But that's that part of it. And like I said, and that's the part that's tied to that other revenue, whether it's going to be funding, financing, a combination of that we expect to have. So it's all coming from that end of things. Ethel Street Main Church, again, was initially, when we did the 5-year water financial plan, was actually a little bit further down the road. But as we do when we're reviewing the capital from year to year, and Public Works is saying that, it's twofold. It finishes part of our looping, but mostly it's so that we can address the condition of the road and get it moved up on the road side and yeah.
It's
Both,
we've
yeah.
had a lot of breaks in that
Yeah.
area as well.
It's our road. Yeah. Yeah.
The obvious issue,
Yeah.
but there's been a lot of water main breaks in that area.
And so again, it's a combined project with a portion of Public Works taking a cost and a portion with the water and sewer budget holding the cost. And it's about an equal split in this one, I think, that we had between the road and the water and sewer portion. Bay Street sort of has been on the radar for a couple of years. We've done some work and some design with Bay Street, just looking at some updates to the panels and then the guides within the station itself. Again, we've got multiple stations, and you see that I've listed them separately just because that's how they've provided it. But really, it just means we're looking at doing maintenance and pump replaces at our pumps and lift stations. Because we are geographically fairly flat, we have to help things along to move things. The Cache Bay manholes is just sort of that ongoing rehab project, again, in conjunction with Public Works, that we have the combined budget on there. A little bit of brushing around some of our infrastructure, and the Verner valve replacement has also just been an ongoing project that we've been undertaking for a couple of years, just replacing some as we go. Technology is fairly straightforward. The ongoing communication with the SCADA systems, again, has been a several-year project that we just keep automating our lift stations and how they talk back to our plant, sort of like they're communicating back to the home planet, so that we've got better control over those. That does sometimes give us some increased costs as far as ongoing maintenance of these systems. However, what it does is give us better control and prevents call outs and prevent spills and all that kind of stuff. So it is a better control system. The dewatering wastewater treatment is ongoing with our wastewater plant here in Sturgeon. Is looking at options for the system in the sludge removal, and one truck on their capital this year. But as you can see, the big parts is the distribution and collection, and the big part being those Verner, Burgo, John Street, and Ethel being these big projects to carry forward. So that said, if council, I said with looking at the transfer reserve, if council says, that extra 120, not this year, we're gonna have to go back and relook at this. And this is right to the line. So I've been very cautious with Ms. Henning and Mr. Ming, that if we, and in their estimates, and had a lot of discussions about, where are we likely to get surprises, or are there unknowns? And there are always unknowns with things, but it'd be one of these things where if we have a project come in that comes in way over budget, then we're coming back to council with some changes or amendments or other options, because this is really tight with the money that we have right now. Because some of these projects are sort of ongoing or started or in process, particularly within the distribution and collection there. They do feel that this is all sort of achievable work in this year, and then the facilities are actually much smaller projects that just add up, but they do feel that it's all achievable despite the kind of overwhelming list of projects. So I'll turn it back to Mr. Chair.
Any questions at this point? Yes, Councillor Legault.
I was just noticing in plans and studies, it says total 330, but there's only one ice from 100 is, I was trying to do the math. This all adds up to the 8.7? So missing an item or it's just.
I think it's probably a copy and paste. Yeah. Let me check what my bottom line is here. Make sure we've got the bottom line being the right bottom line. 8.6, yeah, the bottom line is right. I think we've just got a copy and paste in the other part, yeah.
So
So it is just 100,000.
It is just 100,000, yeah.
Yeah, I just did the math. Yeah.
Any other questions? I've got a couple questions. The roof at the Susan Mat,
Mhm.
that done?
No, so it is a project that kind of will sit like, it's actually not even started, so it's not gonna be whipped, but it's an approved project from 2025 and the reserve funds are sitting there waiting for it. It is one that we had applied for funding for that we haven't heard on as well, but I believe the tenders are ready to go out, though. Yeah, the tender's ready to go out on that one.
Oh, we didn't get grants for that?
No, we're still waiting. We haven't heard on grants for that. We applied for grants.
And I forget the estimation, what that roof was.
It's 1.9 that we had in the budget. Oh, 1.9, 1.2. Let me check here. Oh, yeah, 1.2, so not 1.1, 1.2.
So that amount doesn't reflect?
No.
No.
No,
The generator at the water plant in Sturgeon, was that done?
It's been ongoing. I believe it is complete or very close to being complete, yes.
and it sits as sort of a work in progress at the end of the year, and the reserve connected to it is sort of held aside for it. It's not reflected here, but it's held aside for it as well, yes.
Because that's been in the horse for a couple of years now.
Yeah, no, and the construction happened this summer, so I think there's a few little things, but it's
Okay. While on the subject, the generator, any plans where it's going?
it's behind the building. It's already like the pad and everything's been built for that.
Okay, no, I mean the old one. The one that-
Oh,
I'm saying that because somebody brought up something to me that the Werner Arena was designated as a
Yes.
emergency and the emergency plan for the municipality. And I believe that the little building that's at the end, was that built for that? In the parking lot?
The little building, if I may,
No, we didn't get that far.
the little building on the south side of the parking lot?
Yeah.
No, that was a communications building.
Okay, so I was thinking like that generator could be used for for that.
you have to look into that. I know that generator, you can't get parts for it anymore, and it's in the building. I'm not sure how, I believe the building was built around it. I'll have to verify that, but I don't know how easy it would be to actually even get it out of the plant.
Well, I imagine they will get it up. Because,
Depending on where it's located and yeah, how complex that would be, but it's something we could certainly.
because the generator is very easily change. Add another generator to the motor because that motor is still brand new. It's a 450 that you get right. They still make them today.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a cheap thing to put together to maybe start thinking about that emergency inverter. And any other questions? Yeah.
Just want to go back to kind of like the funding lines and
Mhm.
as to where they relate to projects. So the one that's marked as funding, with the, like, what's the 1.3? Like, can you walk me through?
So there is still some ICIP funding
Okay.
that's still in there. That's connected with the John Street project.
Okay,
The Hughes funding is there and it's connected to the Borgo project. And then there's a little bit of OCIF that is just like our fixed formula portion of OCIF. That it was split between Public Works and Water and Sewer this year. So that's what's in the funding line.
okay, and so the 765 for the Borgo Street project, that's the total project cost, and you said that's funded at 73%?
Yeah.
And so the 73% of 765 is sitting in that 1.3 that we see on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to put all the,
Yeah. Pieces, yeah.
if all the pieces fit together. Thank you. Chair.
Any other questions? So just one last one. All the monies that are there for stuff that hasn't been done, like the generator and the roof, is sitting where?
So, within the dedicated reserves for water and sewer, yeah, and actually we didn't put them in. I don't have my roll for it. I got my roll for it, but yeah. So each year when you transfer money into dedicated reserves, it just stays there for the projects. I'll see if I've got the carry forward for you quickly here.
So it doesn't show on,
It doesn't show on this, no. So this what you have in the project list is just new projects that are coming forward sort of for councils because the other projects were sort of approved and the money's already allocated for them.
I don't know, I think it would be nice to have maybe a little list that keeps on going year to year, if we didn't do it that year. For what and the amount?
So the only ones that are carrying over from this year is the digester roof of the 1.2 million. The generator has a little bit of stuff that has not been billed yet. So there's just $238,000 that hasn't been billed yet. At the time I was doing this, we may get it before the end of the year even, but that was sort of sitting and being held. And then limestone feed was another project. There's $100,000 with the limestone feed. So it is a lot of times. We don't usually have ones like the digester roof that are sitting completely not started at the end of the year. We usually have stuff that is started and it's just rolling from year to year. But certainly, and I said my carry forward balances here. I'm not sure update, but certainly I can bring that to council. Here's where we think our dedicated is going to end for this year because these projects are still sitting in them, and then going forward with what's coming in.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have like for the bigger items.
Mhm.
Just like we had like for the community buildings. This is done, this is not done, then this much money is still there. Something like that, just. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Duval.
Thank you. Through you, just once you started talking about the deferred projects and stuff, yeah, I took a look back at 2 years ago, so it looks like there's $10,000 2 years ago for security cameras at the wastewater treatment plant. But then we're getting another 10,000 this year for new security cameras at the wastewater treatment plant again. Same with the grid auger, but I imagine there's more auger, but the security cameras. So like something like that wasn't done 2 years ago. That, like, what happened to that 10,000?
So sometimes they just give those projects up in favor of other projects, in which case it's not held, it's back in the pool, yeah.
It's grid auger. I don't know how. But it looks above my graves. Thanks.
Okay, back to you, Ms. Greta.
And actually, that's all that I have for you. I will just say what you have in front of you is a 4.04% rate increase. With what you have. That's really that's the so and I said that this is again the staff budget and it will eventually follow the same process as the other budgets, that it will come back as a strong mayor presentation and go through that process as well.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor.
So that 4.4 would be about 273 increase. If I'm not mistaken, my calculation.
In the increase in the rates,
69.
Is it 4.4 or 4.0?
4.04.
And what will that affect the ratepayers' increase on their water and sewer bill for this year?
Oh, Councillor Gagne. Give me a minute, because what I have still is just the 2025, but just let me pull that up for you. So it's, gonna be just a little bit short of $65 for someone who's got water and sewer together.
Annual.
Yeah,
$65 per year.
yeah.
What's the total increase? Let's see, 4.04. How much is it?
To the ratepayer?
No, to total increase on the,
Oh, on the budget. 275,400.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, that's it. Back to you, Madam Mayor. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll just want to know, like, so staff has prepared a budget that's presents a 4.04 increase. How does council feel about it? Councilor Miller, well, do you want me to chair from here? Okay. Just because I want to get some clarity, because either we're looking at this budget and we're going, yep, sounds good. Or we're looking at the budget and saying, well, you know, are there, you know, I know what Councillor St. Louis would say if you were here. You know, so I just would like to get some input on where we're sitting. So 68,000 is 1% increase, which means $17,000 reduction would mean a 2.25% reduction. And I'm sorry, you said it was about $65 per year. At the per user, that's for users that are on both water
Correct.
and sewer.
Yep.
Annual increase, which would be about just over $5 a month. So just so we know where the numbers are all sitting. So I'd like to just to get some feedback, because if there are changes that need to be made in order for this to pass at this table, I'd like to know them now so we can make those adjustments before presenting the non-staff budget. Councillor.
I guess my one thing would just be just to confirm that those security cameras weren't installed or the grid auger wasn't.
No,
To
we're
me, that
not.
seems odd.
No.
Because then, or what was that spent? Because that's $110,000, which is 2%. That's an increase on this budget for our ratepayer. So it's just like when we receive a budget, it just, that comes across as a little odd for me.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be projects, so the cameras would have been projects that were proposed at one point in the past. didn't get completed and then were not resubmitted on following years, or were not far enough into a commitment. So they come back as options each year because they can come out of the mix, right? And so, and the same with the grid auger. I think the grid auger one actually has been pushed 1 year that we've, because of other things, but it is that we've got projects that are committed and ongoing, therefore the funds are held aside, versus projects that aren't even started and will just be represented to council and represented to council. And so overall, you're not going and looking for new money for the capital each year to fund the entire capital, because we've got almost $8 million worth of capital. We have funds already in reserve, and the stuff just stays in reserve. It doesn't get spent and does get carried forward.
I think where Councillor Roy's trying to get some clarity is that when council approves a budget, it has certain items on it. What kind of report back structure is there if projects are being dropped in favor of other things? So, when we look at a budget and we're saying, okay, we approve this, and this, and then those things don't get done, where did the money that was budgeted for those projects go? We're not made aware at the time that projects that are dropped that have been approved at this table.
So some of the projects, like I said, and again, we've started to bring back those capital reporting with water and sewer and with municipal, so you get where projects have shifted and where things have been shifted around. If a project simply doesn't get done, and something like the cameras would be one of those ones, that it's not a significant project, it is a project that could get cut. So I would make the department represent it. I've done that with community services and also, so that's where you'll see some of these ones get on and on, as opposed to something like the generator that is already well on its way and the funds are still held. The roof, which has got an RFP ready to go out, so that the funds are just held. Other ones will come back so that they can get reapproved. We haven't had in water and sewer recently where we've had one project go significantly over. So in that year that we've had to drop projects in that year, but what might happen sometimes is that when you go to present the projects next year, the priorities have changed for council. So this, or for the department, sorry. So this project didn't get completed, so it's not even presented again the following year. But the money stays in reserve. So the money is all in reserve for that. But certainly, we did bring a water and sewer sort of continuity for the 2025 with everything that had been done and moved forward. We brought it forward. We can just update that overall one, and you'll see where the projects are carrying forward. Because we did do the overall at the end of the year for the water and sewer carry forward. We'll do an overall once the year is closed for the water and sewer carry forward from 2025 into 26. Sort of the continuity structure there.
Yes, it would be nice to.
Yep.
Like I said, you have a list, what's done, what we didn't done. Like in Werner, the water tower, at one point, we needed to realign the tower. Then, we're gonna change, we're gonna do inside in glass, it said it's better, so it's cheaper, it's gonna last longer. Change our mind, now we just patch the liner. And we don't know where it's going, so I'd like to be kept informed on this. Like the line going to Sturgeon. We're supposed to do, I don't know if that's the price from the plant to Telesphore to do
Yep.
Is that part of it? Is that we just keep hearing general things, and it seems like not too much is moving.
So I'm just gonna, if I may, the changes in the water tower, that came back to council each time. Because it came back as a new project. That's one of those times where it would come back as a new project the following year because the plans had changed. And so it wasn't that things got changed midstream, but absolutely as they got new information. And then it came back as a new project the following year. The whole looping within the town of Werner is part of the overall Werner extension project. So at what point we'll see it, I'm not sure where it is on the thing because they don't have the whole detailed design and layout for that, but that is part of it was part of the proposal that was sent for the grant application. It is part of the proposal that work, yes.
Because this part, I think, was temporary until we can get the water from Sturgeon, because we would turn the flow around and send the flow going to Telesphore, and hopefully the sediments would settle before it gets to the houses. But, okay. So Madam Mayor,
I guess that at this point, then I'll look for support of what's been presented here at a 4.4 increase. And if we have a majority of council, then I'll work with staff over the next couple of weeks to finalize this. So can I get a show of hands just as to who would, did you have a question or are you pre-voting? Okay, who would be good with what is presented at a 4.404 increase? Well. Okay, so yeah, we'll work with that and likely send that back as a resolution or I don't know how it goes, a mayor's budget, but we can probably do that within a regular council meeting.
Yep.
As opposed to doing a special meeting.
question. I wonder if I'd be, if I have a conflict of interest, because I'm on the septic.
No. Okay, so with that, you're going to continue on committee of the whole and go back to general government committee. We have several things. It's a very busy general government this week. And the first item on the agenda is a new noise control bylaw. There is information that's been provided by Councillor Ferrer. I'd like to first recognize and thank Councillor Ferrer for the work that he did in doing some of the research and background to bring this forward to council. Mr. Pino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, my thanks as well to Councillor Ferrand for bringing this forward. Our noise bylaw came into inception in 1999 with some small revisions in 2007, but certainly I think astutely, the councillors astutely pointed out that this needs to be, I will say, reviewed, modernized, and some significant input needs to be, I think, brought forward based on what is going on in today's lens with regards to bylaw enforcement and certainly what applies and what doesn't apply anymore. It's sort of ancient document. So I thank him for his comments with respect to some of the things that he's pointed out, some of the research that he's conducted with regards to other municipalities and how they approach this. And certainly staff is certainly willing to work towards continuing that research, I will say, and continuing to take some feedback. I know we did receive some feedback from another party with regards to modernizing this particular bylaw. Our set fines are really sort of out of whack, and if I may say that, I think it's time that we do have a quick revision and review of this to just bring it up to snuff. I know that there were several recommendations made by Councillor Ferrand with regards to his research, and I'll leave it to the floor here to have a quick discussion on this. Certainly, staff is willing and certainly supportive of reviewing this particular document.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pilon. With that, I would open the floor to any other suggestions or input on what's been provided as a base for direction on that. I will note as well that prior to the meeting today, we did receive a submission from Madeline Beaudry at the OFA in regards to making sure that the proper exceptions were in place in regards to farm and agricultural activities. And it's very well written, with, an example of proposed language. And it is actually, I believe she states, against provincial legislation, to have a noise bylaw that interferes with, normal farm practices. So, I do want to just thank Madeline and the OFA, for taking the time to make those submissions, because, that kind of input, from the public who has, concerns, is absolutely, a great thing for us. So I would open the floor for questions and comments on the noise bylaw. Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think we have to be, like you said, you gotta be careful with this, that if you buy a property next to an industry or sawmill or whatever, and it's in operation, and then you complain that sawmill makes too much noise, and, so you have to be careful with this, because you have to protect the industry also. But if you go with the noise, let's say like the straight pipe with the snow machine, well, yes, this definitely is quite hard on the nerves to tolerate. But so we have to be careful when we impose laws like this, so we don't affect the industry, like the farmers, like the industry of the lumber, where they have machines that back up, they got the beeping, or just the municipality, they have got graders, there's a backup system on them. So we have to protect the industries. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Larrabee. Councillor Labarge?
Thank you to you. I really like number 7. Is that short list of suggestions by Councillor Farah, that the evidence submission, it's because most people that I know, it's just it's late at night and nobody's working. They can be loud anyways. If you have some sort of protocol or policy where someone can submit evidence, and it's at the discretion of the bylaw officer to determine if the fine's required or not, it just makes it more of a deterrent, where someone may not just think, oh, it's after hours, it's Saturday night, nobody works at those times, so I'll be fine there. The other thing I was wondering was, I don't know if there'd be specific language in there, like, I don't want to point out someone in particular or anyone in particular, but there is the loud snowmobiles. There's also like the loud vehicles that they'll purposely stop on a street just to rev it up and go down, sometimes at 1 a.m. or whatnot. There's people with generators running 24/7 in town. And it's just, and then I've spoken to some people who've said that, they've stopped calling the cops because nothing happened. So they just, they learn to shut their windows or just get AC and not sleep with their windows open, but it's affecting their lives. So I think it is needed that we update this, not so much to penalize people, but just to act as a deterrent. Like, if you keep up these bad habits or you're disrespecting your neighbor's livelihoods, you're gonna potentially get a fine, and then that'll hopefully stop you. But then I also don't want, on the other hand, when my kid's outside having fun screaming bloody murder at the top, as long as I don't want, I want it to be at the discretion of our bylaw officers, which I'm sure will be. So I'm not too concerned that this will ruin people's lives. It'll just make people believe a little more to respect their neighbors.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Fennell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a couple of points quickly. I'm not going to go through the what I submitted, but just to go back on the history of it, not only has our bylaw been enacted in 1999, it was actually written in 1975, and it was a model bylaw that was presented by the Ministry of the Environment, I believe, when they gave the powers to the municipalities to start enacting noise control bylaws. So in 1999, it seems we just picked up that little format. So where it falls over mostly is it only applies specifically to the noises that are listed in the bylaw. There's no catch-all clause for any other unreasonable noise that doesn't fall within that list of maybe 10 points. So and, there are instances of people using noise in a malicious way to annoy or torment their neighbors. And it's difficult because they may be using, a type of noise that doesn't fall under the definition of the old bylaw. So we need to be able to do something about that. Um, um, so thanks for bringing that up. The evidence submission protocols, I think that's very important because, realistically, even if we have a budget for another, it's going to be difficult to get a bylaw officer to attend a noise complaint at 2:00 in the morning. And with we have phones, people can, stand there and record what is going on. That's irrefutable evidence. So there's not that much to address there, and I think what I've seen is that there are a lot of examples of excellent bylaws out there already. So I don't think I don't think it's gonna be a long process. It's nothing in what I've suggested or what anyone else will suggest is probably very controversial at all. So it's not gonna be another chicken bylaw discussion or short-term rent. So yeah, that's what we would like.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Ferrand. Councillor Restal?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I agree with the need to update this. If I'm looking at some of the items that are listed under here, some of them I don't really understand. I'm fairly educated, but not an expert in areas. But and just for an example, I don't even know if it's worded the right way here, but there's number 13 says the operation of any item or snowmaking equipment. I don't know what any item means. That's in our West Nipissing bylaw for noise and snowmaking equipment here. And the other thing that is probably detrimental to people who enjoy power assisted hang gliding. You can't do it on a Sunday under this bylaw. So just things to look at there, but I just in a question to our CEO from his previous share maybe a thought from his previous life. When we're talking about developing a register or whatever, a recording or that kind of stuff, isn't there something legally regarding filming individuals on their own private property? Is there any limitations to that, or because if we're talking about getting proof, if you want to call it that, then in the middle of the night when you can't get a bylaw officer there, is there something that limits that?
Yeah, if I can. My experience has always been if you're lawfully placed, then it's perfectly lawful. So there are some nuances and restrictions, but if we are developing a bit of a system or a process for it, then we'd have the ability to really sort of flesh that out and make that clear with how evidence should be gathered and what evidence would be admissible, I would say, or acceptable. So I think we'd have that ability to do that. And I do also want to commit to the group that I did have some conversation with bylaw enforcement this morning with respect to this whole process and how we were really doing this, I will say a revision or an update, and they were quite happy and have a lot of input as well to bring to the table based on their experience, based on their sort of day-to-day interactions and how they see some of the shortfalls in the current document. So again, along with the recommendations that have been passed along, and certainly we remain open to any further recommendations if somebody comes up with something at a further date, at a later date. But certainly there was a lot of enthusiasm there amongst our own bylaw officers with respect to being able to provide some pretty significant input. So,
thank you. Is the intention, if given direction by council, to proceed with drafting a new bylaw, is it a start from scratch new bylaw? Or would you be looking to amend the current bylaw?
My recommendation would be to start from scratch and repeal this one. This one's pretty.
Okay,
know if we can get the hang gliders.
Okay, so, are there any other questions or comments? So I just like, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Rest.
This probably doesn't need said, but I'll just say that just through you, Madam Mayor, for our, repealing this eventually and putting a new one in place. I completely agree with the set fine amounts here. There's no, I'm sure if Joe's Low was having a party at 2 a.m, you say, we're gonna fine you $100 if you don't stop. Probably wouldn't take someone long to.
Get $5 a person.
Exactly. So that's important too, and I think it was good that was raised.
Okay, thank you. I'll say thank you again to Councillor Cavanagh. I look for a show of hands to basically direct staff to begin with sort of recreating a noise bylaw with using this as a basis and the expertise from our bylaw enforcement and the expertise of our CAO. So I saw a whole bunch of hands go up, so that one's going through. Where are we at? 50. Do you want to break now because STR is going to take longer than 10 minutes and then sorry for the wait. So we'll do that because I think that discussion a little bit longer than that. Okay. Mover and no, you're always a Councillor Restal, Councillor Flynn.
Remember
It's
that.
moved by Councillor Stoll and seconded by Councillor Cavanagh. At 7:50 PM, a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
Okay, all in favor? Carried, all opposed? Thank you. Welcome back from our short recess. We're still in committee of the whole at 5.1.2. As I've declared a conflict, I will pass the chair to our deputy mayor, Councillor Restu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For agenda item 5.1.2 is the update and proposed amendments to the short-term rental bylaw. The issue was brought forward by councillors Ferrand and Nicol. And in our package, there is a document that was prepared by assuming both councillors jointly to share with the rest of us for consideration. And I'm not going to get too far into it. I'd like to give the floor to Councillor Ferrand to provide some background to the document that we have, but I really agree with the first point that's here. Many others in there as well, but this is a new bylaw that we enacted in 2024, and I think it's good governance to always review those things, especially brand new ones. Had a couple of years to see this in action, and I think it's a good time to review and take another look at this and see how things have gone so far and assess where things are at. So appreciate it coming to the floor for us to look at this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over, recognizing that Councillor Nicol is with us as well online, but I'll start with Councillor Ferrand if you'd like to start. Take us through.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just, again, I'm not going to repeat everything that's MO, but I just want to iterate a few points. I think we'll all agree that the short-term rental bylaw has not been, would call a resounding success. I believe we have at most a dozen licenses issued. And so when Councillor Nicol and I looked at it, we thought, well, how can we encourage people to participate and get a license? And we felt that there's certainly one major barrier in the bylaw, and that's the 1 kilometer exclusion limit for any neighboring properties who wish to apply. And although I think, you know, I understand, I wasn't here, I wasn't a councillor when this was enacted, but I do understand reason behind it. And I you know, I've had short-term rentals near my properties times, and I understand that sometimes having one can be challenging for neighbors, especially from a noise point of view, but having two, then it gets even worse. So, you know, the exclusion limit, I think, was there to minimize impact on neighbors. I think, having said that, 1 kilometer may be a little bit, using the analogy of the sledgehammer and then cracking the nut. It might have been a little bit overkill. What has resulted in is that there are some people who would legitimately apply for a license, but they just can't. And so go ahead and use their property as a short-term rental anyway. So maybe we need to look at either removing that or just reducing it completely down to maybe 250 meters or some other definition to prevent people from having to live, you know, right in the middle of two short-term rental properties. The other point we wanted to make was you know, why have a limit of one license, one Class B license per owner? You know, why can't we have more than one? Why can't we have three or even more than that? You know, if someone has 5 properties spread around the municipality, I don't understand why we should discriminate against them and say, well, you can't have more than one. And I think also, you know, there might have been concern at the time that we would be overrun with applications for short-term licenses and that we would, you know, end up with, you know, hundreds, but clearly that hasn't materialized. So that's another point to address. You know, we were also suggesting to return the fines to the levels that council intended at the beginning before they were cut down by half by the provincial court. But mostly, we need to look at establishing an enforcement strategy, specifically how we will, track down unlicensed operators. And I think, given some effort, it's relatively easy to track down listings on Airbnb or VRBO to, figure out where the property is. So, I know that we issued a press release, I think it was May of the spring of last year, just reiterating to people that we would do that, but I don't think so. I think we need to do it. And rightfully people have to be warned that, you need to get a license. So that, I think it just needs to be tweaked. It's not a major run. And we just need to make sure that people who operate get licenses for all the reasons that this bylaw was enacted in the first place.
Okay, so for that, just online, Sonica would like to add to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't repeat everything Councillor Fran said, but I think we identified a lot of key areas that we thought needed revision, and I think this is a strong foundation for making some meaningful updates. I think the changes, they will remove the unnecessary barriers and encourage compliance and licensing. And I just want to come back to number one. Would any staff have the information on how many fines have been issued or have been given? Maybe.
I do.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have not issued any fines. We've obtained voluntary compliance to the warning letters that we have issued. We had one that was went to an appeal. The appeal was upheld by the Property Standards Committee, but in terms of fines, we have not issued any. That we start with a warning letter, and people have complied.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And back to you, Mr. Chair. That was my only question for now.
Thank you. Open the floor. Councillor Fenn, do you
Just a quick question. So if we have issued a fine, so is AMPS fully operational now?
No, we're not completely ready to go on that. We've got some technical things we have to work out inside of and I think our Lisa can speak to, or Mrs. Craddock can speak to that. We're just working through some of the technology.
But the rest of
So
it,
do we have a hearing officer?
We do.
We do. Okay, so we were able to take that fine through to so it was the hearing officer's decision was appealed.
No, you're in the wrong bylaw.
No, but because you said that there has been a fine under the.
No, there was an appeal to a refusal to issue a license.
But I don't believe there was a form.
Under the short-term rental.
Yeah.
bylaw.
Yeah, we refused a license. They appealed the refusal. It was upheld.
Okay.
So Guy?
So how many licenses did we issue?
We have,
How many short-term licensing do we have?
I believe, a dozen issued, and there's 3 or 4 that are in the process. 3, I think, that are in the process.
2024, we had 14 applications, 1 canceled, resulting in 13 approved licenses. 2025, 15 applications on file, 14 completed with 1 currently pending. I think the 15 in 2025 are mostly renewals. So I don't think it's a 14 plus 15.
No.
It's a small amount. I think given the fact that straight one Airbnb and Verbo and other sites, it's probably infinitely more operating without a license. So well, that's potential for some proactive enforcement.
Can I ask you a few more questions? Yeah, because I know there's like over 100 Airbnb, VRBO or whatever that you can find online. How many warning letters did we issue? Or applications that were kind of pending?
I honestly don't have that number. I'd have to go back to the service request.
Is it high or is it?
No, it's small.
Okay. And,
I have here 2 complaints. Both cases, property owners were verbally notified. To comply.
and, since we put the bylaw in place, what's the reason for not enforcing the bylaw?
Good question.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it might be just an area of capacity, but I'll let the chief maybe make sure.
So again, I'll speak to this through you, Mr. Chair. The whole process when council approved the short-term rentals was we we're going to go through the education process, try and get people to comply. The ones that we are finding are people that either don't reside here and weren't aware of the regulations. So this is where, again, the education portion has been going in. And we've either received applications or they've withdrawn their advertisement. As you had mentioned, Councillor Gangi, you look on the websites, you'll find all kinds of them all over the place. It is something that we are chasing, if I can put it appropriately. And then either letters are being issued that you are non-compliant, you need to either get an application, get a license, but then it falls into the other sections of the bylaw as well for distances and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up question, that's okay. Monsieur Ferrand and Councillor Nicol, one of the reasons that we put a limit of 1 kilometer is that so you don't have Airbnbs or short-term rentals side by side to neighbors, especially because what I've noticed is a lot of those short-term rentals, a lot of them are popping up on waterways. And one of the complaints that we received from a resident was like you live between 2 short-term rentals and you have parties every weekend. So that was one of the reasons why we put the limit to 1 kilometer, to make sure that you have just one inside your residence and not 2. So how could we, or what would be your suggestion as to trying to control that so that you don't have 2 neighbors that are renting your beside your permanent cottage residence on water, which you're trying to enjoy the summer months? Like, so I'm just curious to see, how do we eliminate that 1 kilometer, but make it functional for short-term rentals and full-time residents on waterways, which was the biggest issue when we did the bylaw.
If I thank you. It's something I've given a lot of thought to, and I think my answer is in 2 parts. First of all, is reduce the limit, because I agree with what we are trying to achieve with the limit. I believe that the limit is far too high. I mean, if you put any point in, for example, in the center of Sturgeon Falls, and you draw a circle with a radius of 1 kilometer, it's a good chunk of Sturgeon Falls. So are we saying that, you know, in a town like Sturgeon Falls, that we can only have 2, I don't know, 3 short-term rentals? So let's just reduce it to a distance that will achieve what, you know, the aim, without excluding people from having a license that would want one. But the main point is to address the noise, and you know, it comes back in a way to the previous item that I sent it to council, which is a noise bylaw. The short-term rental bylaw, if you remember, has a clause that prevents any noise any time of the day. And it's much more restrictive than the noise bylaw, which is, I forget the hours, till 11 o'clock at night, I believe, or 10. So if we can properly enforce noise regulations, then we won't have the problem of people having rentals next to each other, because 99% of the problem caused by short-term rental properties in close proximity is noise. It's really nothing else.
Mhm.
So if we address the noise with proper enforcement, then maybe we won't even need it.
Would you see like, or recommend something different for, like in town versus shoreline?
Sure.
As far as distance?
Sure.
Would be,
I think we need to.
a possible, okay. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you. Mr. Gagne, I asked a few people who live on the Clear Lake area because they were dealing with this last summer. And they said they would be comfortable with, we could come up with a number every third or every fifth house could have a rental, just so they're not sandwiched in between them. It's a little bit more spread out. But I don't know how that looks distance wise, but maybe if you do it per house instead of a distance, might be easier.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. That's good because you just ran out of your questions.
I'll ask a few.
Anybody, just kidding. Any other comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. And it's to do with currently when someone applies, I know that there are septic inspections, make sure that the septic system is compliant and so who does the inspector? Is it North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority who does that, or is it the bylaw officer?
They have to, through you, Mr. Chair, they have to bring in the paperwork proving that their septic system is adequate for the dwelling and accommodation that they're applying for. If they're unable to produce that, they have to install a new septic.
So what kind of paperwork would that involve?
Their septic approval paperwork from when they got the septic installed.
Okay, and so if they don't have that, they need, who do they go? They go to North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, or they come to the
They
municipality?
go to the Conservation Authority to see if the Conservation Authority has the records of when the
Yeah.
septic was installed, failing which they will have to get a new system.
They can't get North Bay Mattawa to come and inspect.
You can't inspect it, you'd have to dig it up. There's no way of knowing. Without the records, you don't know what's under the ground.
I see.
Looking, oh, Colin?
If I just may add to that, Mr. Chair, bylaw officers aren't trained or qualified, if you would, to do septic inspections. As our clerk has mentioned, if there's nothing on file, which basically anything prior to, and Councillor Rivard would probably be able to answer that question, let's say 2000, there won't be anything on file. So the only way is they need to dig it up and inspect tank size, capacities, and everything else. And again, those were conversations that took place when we were going through the bylaw. The concerns as to a 2-bedroom house is being rented to a family of 8, 9 people. Can that system hold it? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank
The
you.
approval has to match the application.
Looking around, I'm not seeing other comments or questions. I know the document that was provided by 2 councillors have a number of items there. And there has been some conversation here about other things to consider with spacing for waterfront and for rural versus urban, other things for consideration. I think going back to our last agenda item with the noise bylaw, I think that's another great point made by Councillor Ferrand. How can we marry those two to make sure there's consistency there in the application? But with maybe a show of hands, if everybody's okay. Oh, sort of gone.
Sorry, I had a few more questions. What's the reasoning for letting an short-term rental owner have more than one license? And would you put a max? Because that's one of your recommendations.
You asking?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Jared, for you, I would ask, what is the reasoning for a limit of one? That's my question is, when I look at a bylaw, every part of the bylaw to me has to have a reason. And so I couldn't figure out what the reason was to have a limit of one per owner. If you happen to own 3 properties, especially if they're spread out in different parts of the municipality, why are we discriminating against this owner because he's got three? And what problem are we trying to solve? Because if I can't figure out the problem we're trying to solve, then I don't think the limit should be.
Yeah, and the reason for it was housing issues and the cost of our current housing market. Those were the two main reasons why we had limited to a one license per owner for short-term rental. And that issue still exists, unless I'm mistaken. So that was the reasoning of only issuing one license per owner. So that we don't permit.
Have a conglomerate coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of our short-term rental, shoreline residentials are bought out for short-term rental at the peak times. Cause we do still have a housing shortage in West Nipissing. And our kids can't afford houses in West Nipissing still, which is an issue. So that was the reasoning behind the criteria of only one, but I'm just, you go to three, or you just go like, you want to buy 25 houses, knock yourself out, buy them. And we don't really care. So that was the reasoning why we went to just like one license, but maybe we could word it like, maybe there's an exceptions for some reason, but that was the reasoning and the discussion that we had at the time. So.
I guess if I may just add to that, I understand then that that's a perfectly valid reason. I'm not sure that the licensing has affected the housing market. I think it's. Do we think that the fact that we have short-term rentals in West Nipissing is affecting is increasing the shortage of housing? I think we have to maybe sit down and figure out, well, do we have a problem? Is it caused by short-term rentals? I don't think there's that many short-term rentals even listed in the urban area of Sturgeon Falls. I believe the last time I looked, there may have been just a small handful. So I don't think 5 or 10 in the urban area is going to make that much of a difference. And these short-term rentals are not, they're mostly in the summer. It's the same thing for waterfront properties. It's mostly in the summer, it's not the winter. I don't think we'd have a thriving tourist business in the winter. So again, let's look at whether it is causing a problem. Maybe the answer to that is to limit the total number of licenses. So let's say, and I forget if there was a total. Yeah, there is a total limit. Do you remember what it is? 100. It's 100. So we still have at the moment we only have 12 for 14 licenses. So until we get to 100. Why limit someone to one? But I accept that. It's a valid point, and it's something we really have to make sure that.
Yep. Thank you for the clarity. I was just wondering why. I also wondered why, like, if you're running, it used to be a tourist camp, and now they're all short-term rentals. Well, technically, can you license if you have 5? You used to have 5 cottages, but now it's not a cottage anymore. They're short-term rentals. I don't know how it works, but could you still apply for 5 licensing if they're all short-term rentals?
Through you, Mr. Chair, existing commercial properties are not subject to the license.
Okay.
Tourist properties that are already commercials don't have to have a license.
Okay.
It's just residential.
Okay.
Can I add to that? I think you'll find that most tourist operators use short-term rental sites.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they get their business. But as you said, they're exempt. So it's
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's go.
Oh no, actually, I had one more question. Okay, I just want to understand the reasoning of the adjusted fines. So like, the process was we sent that to a judge, the judge reviewed it, we got it back. And that judge decided the fines are too high, bring them down, and that's it. That's the process. That's a democracy process, or
I can speak to that a little bit.
please.
That was at the time we passed the bylaw, our AMPS was not in place. When we adopted our AMPS bylaw, we transferred the existing fee or the existing fine schedules on our bylaws to the AMPS. I would have to look into, because we added the AMPS provisions to all our bylaws, which was one of the things in your memo that we already addressed. But we did not take away the provincial offenses provisions. So if we were unable to achieve compliance under the AMPS, we still had the POA as a fallback. So I would have to look into having two different schedules for one bylaw. I'd have to see whether or not that's something that we could have one for AMPS and one for POA. So that's the reason why we just took the one, because we didn't take away the ability to enforce that bylaw under provincial offenses. We merely added the ability to enforce it under AMPS.
Oh, okay.
Is this standard way of implementing AMPS bylaws in Ontario? Why did we do this? Why would we want to do this?
Through you, Mr. Chair. For short-term rentals, it may not be as prevalent, but for other bylaws where we don't, under AMPS, if we can't collect the fine, we can attach it to their property taxes. However, say with noise or traffic or dog control or something, they may not be an owner. So we don't have an ability to collect it under AMPS by attaching it to the property. So if we still have provincial offenses, we can take it to POA and the province would enforce it under the normal provincial offenses in for traffic bylaws. For traffic things, for example, it would go, they wouldn't be able to renew their driver's license if they hadn't paid it. So it was like a belt and suspenders for enforcement.
Could we then, because as short-term rental bylaw is directly related to property, could we not undo that fallback, because we don't need it for short-term rentals? I agree, we may need it for noise.
If that's the direction of council, I can certainly look into seeing whether that's, I don't see why we couldn't, but I wouldn't want to say unequivocally. I'd want to get advice first, but.
And also I'm wondering, because there are a number of, well, I don't want to go back to the noise bylaw, but there's a number of noise bylaws that have fines of $100,000, maximum fines of $100,000. I'm wondering if the provincial court have reduced those if they had to.
Oh,
anyway, but that's not for another conversation.
Okay. So questions, any other things you'd like to add?
Well, I'll briefly address the one question and then I will be asking for clear direction from this council as to the suggestions that they're being proposed. Are we going with them and bringing back an amendment, or do we want to bring back a draft for further discussion? So anyways, I just wanted to address item number 5, which was the privacy, the query regarding the privacy, the publishing of the telephone numbers on the website. That was an issue because the bylaw provides that the person owning the having the license must have a designated responsible person who can respond within 30 minutes of any incident. We did get an opinion from our lawyer at the time that because the provisions are entrenched in the bylaw and the people obtain a license under the bylaw, the publishing, by applying for the license, they have waived those privacy conditions. So it's a case of if you don't, either council can change the bylaw. However, then there's no way for people to contact the responsible person if it's not published. Then the municipality would be in the middle if something were to take place. And the neighbor, somebody was reporting something, they wouldn't have anybody to report it to except us. The designated responsible person takes us out of the middle person for mundane complaints, I guess. But it's certainly within council's purview if they want to change that and look at a different system. This was just something that seemed to be fairly standard across the province.
Also, probably.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forget, does a owner of a short term have to be a resident of West Nipissing?
No, but as I've indicated, they have to have a designated responsible person who can attend at the property within 30 minutes. So if they don't live here, somebody who does live here has to be kind of caretaker.
Just
Councillor Dunn.
so the issue at hand, Ms. Shum, is that you want to know if we want to change the bylaw because we can't publish that phone number?
No, we can publish the bylaws currently provides the law allows us to publish. Some people don't like their telephone number being listed on our website.
Mhm.
However, our lawyers have indicated that by applying for the license, and the bylaw states that that will be published, that they have agreed to it by applying for the license.
Okay,
But we can change the bylaw. If council, it's certainly council's wish.
Councillor Nickel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the person renting it not have access to the phone number?
The person, through you, Mr. Chair, the person renting it would, but other persons wouldn't.
Would there be a way that staff keeps it on file and the person's renting it and then the general public doesn't have access? Because the issue that was raised to me was somebody declined somebody staying at their house for a weekend and then their phone number was public, but because they didn't book, they didn't have access to the phone number, but then they found it on the website and there was a little bit of harassment going on through there. But no, it's okay.
I don't, that's civil issues that I wouldn't want to speak to.
Okay.
I think part of the comment too that Mr. Shaw mentioned as well is if we don't have that information available to yourself as a neighbor or anybody, then we're involved into this as well. And then whoever has the issue has to contact our staff who have this number on file, then provide the information to the person who's requesting it. And I don't know if 2:30 in the morning call would be, if we'd have staff on call at all hours of the day to provide that kind of information.
Yeah, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think if the number was provided by the municipality, then it's still being provided publicly. I mean, if somebody calls and wants that phone number, they can get it somehow. I've also had, I had one constituent who told me that she was not going to apply for license and she actually closed down her rental completely. She complied in that she stopped, because she said, I will never publish my phone number on a website. The suggestions that we made, I think also was in the spirit of, again, encouraging people to get a license but I'm not sure that it's a big enough problem that either way, I'm not, don't have a strong opinion on it.
Any other final questions? So as Mr. Shaw mentioned, she's looking for direction from council on how to proceed with the request that's in front of us. Like I mentioned, like we've referenced, document in front of us with a lot of suggested opportunities to review within the existing bylaw and a couple of other things that were raised here in discussion. I guess show of hands, if council's okay with conducting a review of the bylaw and bringing back a revised draft based on tonight's discussion and the information that was provided through the document from Councillor Nicol, Councillor Fedin. who's in agreement with giving staff that direction. Looks like there's direction, right? Anything else required?
Mr. Chair, sorry, before we move on tonight, now that we have given direction, I think timescale may be an important factor here because we want something in place before the summer season starts and give people enough time to get things in place. So maybe we can look at something along, I don't know what's
We can bring
possible.
it back for next general government.
Okay, that'd be ideal.
There will be, through Mr. Chair, we would, the one kind of loose end was the distance. Would you like us to bring back options and what that would look like? Okay.
Also, Johnny.
Yeah, maybe, Madam Clerk, you could look at one of the complaints on Cash Lake to see the distance between that residence and the two, short-term rental on each side as maybe a minimum, but I think those houses were pretty close, but maybe if we could look at that, whether it be 200 meters or.
Average lot is 60 meters, so
Yeah,
120 meters or something. 200 meters. I'll bring back some options and what that would look like. Because
okay.
it's going to look different depending on the neighborhood.
Yeah, and maybe shoreline would be different and things like that, but we had some complaints, legitimate complaints. And I don't want to ignore those complaints and say, well, too bad, like we're changing. Those people were happy and I think overall it was working well, but like Conseiller Ferrand said, a 1 kilometer distance in the downtown core of West Nipissing, there's one central short-term rental and the 5 in the outskirts, and that's it. No more than that. So I do appreciate that recommendation. Thank you.
Lots of good direction to staff. I'm sure we'll get a document coming back to us at the next general meeting. And with that, I will turn the chair back over to conversation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think that's the longest I've ever gone without saying anything in a council meeting. As was noted at the beginning of the meeting, 5.1.3 was referred through to the February 3rd meeting. And so we'll move to 5.1.4, which is updated the terms of reference. I understand that, through the last couple of months in councilors requesting terms of reference for different committees, it's been identified that there are some that have perhaps not seen a pen for 20 or 25 years and could use some updating. I'll just and so it's being recommended, and I would tend to agree that that we do a review of the terms of references of all of the municipal boards to have come back to have them freshened up in time for the next term of council to begin. Councillor Ferrand submitted the request. I'll pass the floor to you. If you have anything to add on that, or
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, not really. I think you summarized it perfectly well.
it's really just mostly a piece of housekeeping. I know that we identified, I think the Agricultural Advisory Committee was a little old. And there might be others. So I don't know as far as process how you would. First of all, I would like to see if council is interested in just, getting a refresh on those documents by a show of hands, and then we can talk about what that might look like from a staffing perspective. Show of hands. Yeah. And so I don't know whether a set of all of the terms of reference comes back at a future meeting and we can go, okay, this one's fine. can you bring this one back? Because there are probably some that have been updated. I believe Economic Development Advisory Committee has been updated. So there are some that are more up to date than others, or like staff just to identify the ones that they believe could use a bit of a.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think it might be a combination of perhaps staff having a look at things, but also what chairs those committees. I know the accessibility committee, the terms of reference were just sort of reviewed and updated, and I think it's done mostly on an annual basis to have a look at those, and I think that's probably where that's a little bit lacking in some other committees. So it might be sort of a joint effort through committee membership and with the assistance of staff. If I can suggest that, I'm open suggestions. Since you brought this forward,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the only suggestion I would have is to bring them back all onto the table, just so that we can make sure that they're all, consistent and all have points in common. But I wouldn't want us to say, well, no, that one's okay. Let's just do these ones. Let's bring everything back and ensure consistency across the board.
It's probably not a bad idea to, especially just even language around, having to abide by the code of conduct and, so making sure that the basis of all of that they're a match set. They're two socks with the same colors. And Councillor Resto?
Thank you through, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions. One, because I'm not aware of how they work, but in terms of protocol for these terms of reference with the different boards or committees, who sets them? Is it councils that does all of them, or is there input from the individual boards or committees in terms of making, suggested revisions or whatnot?
I believe because they're committees of council that they have generally followed. I'll let Matt.
In the past, and I think Mr. Poyne, we typically take them to the committee itself, have a conversation at the committee level, but ultimately the decision to approve them is at this table.
Okay.
And the reason for the question is just for process, right? We don't, and I say this in all good ways, we don't want to be heavy-handed to come down but it is at the end, like you mentioned, our committees and boards that are in place. And then just my other question is just how far is the scope of what we want to look at? Is it also committees or boards that we're members of, like a DSAB or like a health unit, or just, I don't say just in a negative way, just in our own committees that we.
I believe the intention is just to address the committees of council. So economic development, recreation, the cemetery, that's legislated. Okay, accessibility advisory committee has been done, but we can still put it side by side with the others. Agricultural advisory committee. So it's just the committees of council. Property standards. Not committee of adjustment, but planning advisory committee. Committee of adjustment is again a legislated body that has to follow its own rules. But it's just our internal kind of pieces. And I'm not sure, my impression on the request is we're doing this to prepare for the next term of council. However, I would say because we're looking for that consistency piece to have them come to council, get something that we're comfortable with. I don't necessarily think that we're making, grand changes to what the committees look like as far as just doing an administrative cleanup, then have them go back to the committees for input before final approval by council. And that would respect the role of our community committee members. So it's a process that would respect that role, while still kind of having a consistent lens. Councillor Restwell?
Yeah, just follow up that question. Just regarding our process as well. Are we looking at doing everything in one shot? Are we looking at doing, 2-1 meeting to give time? And I say that, and I'm just going from experience because one of the other boards that I sit on. They do regular reviews of policy, and every meeting they'll bring a couple back just to keep everything fresh, like you mentioned, and make sure that it's up to date. So I guess asking staff in terms of the time needed to do the work, what would make most sense?
Just for clarity, I think, in the spirit of what Councillor Feta is requesting, I think we would start with by bringing back, as he'd asked, the list of all of them. And then perhaps a recommendation of how long it would take. There really is only a handful. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been recently done and may need very minor changes. There's a couple that are, as you said, in significant need of overhaul, but they wouldn't take a long time. So I think if we bring back at the next meeting the list, and kind of, this is the thing, this is the date, this is what we think needs to be done, and this is what it would take to fix it. Because I don't think that's a one size fits all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's
Yeah.
varying amounts. of work,
Like
from
a lot of
policy to
them,
policy.
are almost nothing.
Don't?
Yeah, I agree. I think a bit of a systematic approach and I think, going back to my previous comments, yeah, a review by council, but sort of that collaborative review as well and approval from the individual committees, just to make sure that we're not missing anything or that we are capturing and, conducting the proper updates and modernizations, I will say. So.
Okay. Yeah, I got you all to put your hands up before we started that discussion, so
I've been list for
let's
next
come
meeting.
back with a list and maybe copies of them, just like so we can see what they look like, and recognition of this. Yeah. That makes sense for you guys. Okay, great, thank you so much. Hopefully we're getting near the end here. 5.1.5 integrity commissioner expense. There is a memo in your package, and I will pass the floor to
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, as indicated, Ms. Craddock was good enough to pull this information with regards to, and again, just for clarity, this is just the 2025 Integrity Commissioner expenses and the activities that that Integrity Commissioner was involved in. I know I'm aware of the complaints, and essentially there was a request to have a bit of a cost analysis on what that liability was for the municipality, and there you have it, just under $30,000. And I think before we open this up for discussion, I just wanted to make sure that we kept this at a very high level. There are some certainly complaints involving staff and council that I don't really think is necessary to really have a discussion about during in this type of forum. But again, we're trying to provide the information to whoever asked for this information with regards to what exactly costs were. It just didn't involve just investigation. It also involved a few training sessions and other things. And again, we didn't want to come back with an invoice detailing all the breakdown of all the costs that were incurred through the Integrity Commissioner's office. There you have it. I give it back to you, man.
Yep, I'll open the floor for questions or comments. Councilor Gagnier?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What was the cost for the 2 training sessions? I think we can get that information because that was directly with the council.
I'll have to defer to Ms. Craddock, but I believe it was about $4,000 or $5,000 a pop.
Yeah. I said, I don't actually have all the details on both of them. That would be in the right ballpark. Yeah.
And again, we didn't want to start to discuss those types of fees, I think, in this forum. But yeah, ballpark, that's kind of where we sat.
Could that information be shared with council? Like, I'd be interested in knowing what an investigation costs and what an advice from council costs and training. You just shared it with me. If you rather do it that way, but I'd like to know how much an investigation ballpark costs, and when we ask advice to Mr. Kazan, how much, when I call to say, should I declare a conflict? is it costing taxpayers or our budget $500 or $1,000 for that advice?
Yeah,
So I mean, we can bring a breakdown that this was the total for advice, this was total for investigation and total for training. Just sort of kind of, what advice might cost. It might cost a couple hundred, it might cost a couple thousand for advice. And the same I find even on the investigation, from a couple $100s to several $1,000s on investigation. Like, there is quite a range. There's not really a typical, but if council would like just a breakdown of this was the cost for the investigation portion versus this was the cost for all the training. We could break it down to, it's that further.
I would like to see that information, and I'll do my own calculation as to what I know, but I'd like to know how much money we're spending when there is a integrity commissioner and complaints or advice requests, so we know how much it's currently costing us. That's my request.
I would add that in addition to that, I believe that the integrity commissioner is to provide an annual report to council. Is that correct? Like under the bylaw?
That is correct, but he doesn't report on his fees. He
No,
reports
no.
on the investigation.
On the come to council investigations and activity within the municipality. That will likely be scheduled.
And we'll follow up with him and see what his schedule is.
Okay, we could do it in February or March, maybe, and then some of the questions in regards, maybe not necessarily to direct fees, but what the differing types of investigations are, what the differing types of advices. Ms. Craddock indicated some pieces of advice are more complex than others. Some investigations are more complex than others. So it's not there's not a price tag.
No, he charges, he has a fixed rate
Uh-huh.
and it's billed by the 0.1 of an hour. So every 6 minutes,
Okay.
it's an amount. So the
It's very
longer you
precise.
talk, the more it costs.
Oh, goodness. Okay, other questions or comments on that? Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you. You want?
Not you personally, everybody.
Oh, okay. 5.1.6 property sale reserve fund. How come? There's nothing in the package.
Oh, I see.
That should be 5.1.7.
No, it's not in there.
There was no attachment.
That's mine.
Hmm?
Do you have, does anybody have anything on 5.1.6?
No.
Or was that
Okay.
was that a miss?
I think it might have been a misplaced holder in that we brought the reserves to council. There
Yeah,
had been a bit of a discussion on what does council want to do, and I think it might have just been a placeholder that
okay.
was left, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move to 5.1.7, which is the Borgo Street lot addition. There is a,
Can I just ask, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
On 5.16, is it a discussion we're gonna bring back later or?
yes, I believe.
Yeah, I believe there was a general call, right, to councilors with respect to suggestions on potential projects for the property fund. And I think that probably was to have that
Yeah.
discussion as to how you wanted to potentially direct staff or have us look at some of those projects that are either been deferred or whatever the case may be, or that were in the hopper, or if there were new suggestions on how to use that fund in the coming months. So that
So
we
we're
can have some
deferring
direction.
this point to a future meeting.
Yeah, I guess we should probably officially do that because and community services is generally second meeting anyway, is it not?
Okay, is this the Parkland fund or the
No.
property
The
reserve
property.
fund? Okay,
Property sale fund, right?
so that wouldn't necessarily be community services, that's general government.
Have a discussion.
Well, there's nothing prepared, so I don't, I would not want to. Can you do a motion to defer to the next?
Those we defer to the next, I think, wasn't the idea to use that fund for community
Yeah.
services? So
Yeah.
let's do it
Okay.
when it's time.
Just next meeting. Okay, we have a motion on the table to defer 5.1.6 to the next meeting
I
also.
don't need it.
I didn't just make a case. Okay, so yes, that will come back on the next. So then 5.1.7 is the Bordeaux Street property. It's memo in your package. I've gone over this a couple of times. So I will pass the floor, Mr. Pito.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a recurring item, obviously. Last time this was brought up, council directed staff to obtain an additional appraisal of the property, and also gave direction to staff to change the conditions and sort of readdress the initial assessor or the initial assessment with Moreland. And we did engage a second appraiser, and you can see by the numbers there, Moreland was given the initial engineer's report, were staunch in their position that this is what they felt the property was worth as an addition to as a lot addition. And certainly there was the second appraiser that brought the number in at, I believe it is $65,000 as a lot addition, and $125 is an estimated value of a developable lot. And Madam Clerk's prepared obviously a lot of documentation at the request of Madam Mayor. There's also a request to do some comparative analysis with properties that were sold off as lot additions in the last little while. You have that document that should be in front of you, and it's just a comparative price per square foot. But I will say, and under the caveat that this is apples, oranges, and bananas, these three different properties are completely, they've been assessed in a completely different way. When you talk about how Borgo was assessed, how the Tamarack lot was assessed, and how the Riverfront lot was assessed, they are assessed completely different criteria. So it's important to note that in your deliberations and discussions and consideration when you look at that price per square foot. So that is something that the mayor requested to perhaps give us a little bit of additional information. But again, I caution you by saying that the criteria utilized in those two other processes compared to Borgo are completely different.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to questions or comments. Councilor Gunn.
Even there. I'd like to make a recommendation.
Okay.
Looking at the comparative that we have. Since the riverfront lot sold at $3.99 per square feet, which is actually has Surgeon River water access, which is for me is close of a comparator. I would recommend that we sell both at $3.99 per square feet, which at least would be consistent with the waterfront lot that we've sold before. And technically the riverfront lot and the Borgo lot, which both are on water access, we technically be paying the same amount for the square footage. So I think that would be a fair comparison. So that would be my recommendation from my part. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just note that in the case of the riverfront, the actual water frontage that was being sold was about 10 feet.
45 feet.
No, that's
an annual.
It's 5 years.
It's 14 meters. Because it's on skew,
Okay, yes, yes.
5 meters at the road, 14 meters at the water.
Okay. And the frontage on Borgo was 42 meters.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference. Okay, so there's, Counselor Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also in agreement with Conseiller Gagne just suggested. If you look at I figured that there's a map where there's colors would be page 82. It shows the watermark when water is high. It doesn't leave a whole lot of property to do anything but being a lot addition. So with that being said, all the other lots are all going to the river except that one there. It would only make sense to sell it.
Counselor Lamar.
Thank you. I have a hard time going any less than appraisals. We've done this for every other site. We've gone at least with the appraisal. The appraisal is, professionally, in my opinion, it is. It's a little different than the other lots as mentioned by our CEO. And so it just makes me wonder like that, you know, as a new lot, it's 125 appraised. That's not even considering the other one that is owned currently, but then lot addition 65. I never fully understood that as well, right? Because it's a little closer. Like, to me, it should be more in the middle of both of those. But I know we shouldn't be thinking of who is purchasing it. It's just as one lot, standalone. But that's my opinion. Is 65 would be the least, but I still think it should be more closer towards the 90 when you're looking at the 42 meters of frontage and just the lot area. Seems large in size.
Thank you, Counselor Pellerin.
The appraisal was for 125, but it has a standalone lot, and it is a standalone lot. If we look at the subdivision, it was divided like that. All the other lots are smaller, narrower, and this one is larger. They made this on purpose to get two lots out of it. So if you look at the water line, like you were saying, if you look at the last one on the right, it's got less room to build than on this one. And if there's a problem of erosion, erosion is not a problem. If your lot goes there, you can always add fill or whatever. The MNR, I've done it at my place. The MNR doesn't have a problem if it's on your property, if it's done right. So to me, this lot is a standalone. I don't know where it's part of that subdivision and it was made that way. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Counselor Ferrer.
I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Pellerin. I still have a trouble understanding why that can't be used as an access. It's wide enough. If the piece of infrastructure there needs to be protected with some kind of a fence, then something that can be done. And I agree, the whole way it's designed, the road goes right to the end originally. And a moment ago, it is used as an entrance because you see that there's, you know, vehicles that have gone back and forth there and there's a boat stored on the property. So I don't agree with 399 valuation. I think the actual valuations is somewhere between 65 and 125. And also considering that there has been a huge benefit over a period of 30 years where this has been used as their own property.
Counselor Rostow.
See, it glanced down on my hand. through you, Madam Mayor, I've always maintained the same and I still do now, especially with the report. I appreciate the other information that was provided. For myself, I have a lift station right in front of my home. The road is probably about 6 feet away from the lift station. There's metal poles in the ground to make sure that there's no damage to the lift station. So, and seeing, I appreciate the picture, but if you take the angle from a little bit to the left of where the picture is taken, there's, in my opinion, there's a considerable amount of space there to put access to that property. In the report, this is what it was in my mind. It was referencing to myself, but talking about looking at getting a sorry, one quick moment. I find it. Sorry. Just looking, there was a comment here about looking at recommending that a survey could be done. See, and that's just more information for us, right? We're not deciding anything. We don't have to decide anything at this meeting now. I think it's knowledge is always a great value, and if there's other things that we can look at to get a full and complete picture of the opportunity that's there. I know Councillor Fanaz mentioned this in the past. It's at a very minimum, you can look at this as a water accessible lot, and that's an option that's there. I think there's not sure whose it is, but I think there's already a dock installed at the end of that property. So just a good example that you can get to it by water. We're stewards for the land within the municipality here, and that's a very valuable piece of land that can be developed. And I think there was one comment here that you at least right now you could put a 800 square foot building there, and that's I'm going to assume that that's a footprint. So if you'd want to level home, you could probably do that as well, which is bringing the property up to 1,600 square feet, which is a fair size home. But I think there's value in that property, and I definitely wouldn't agree with the lowest number that's there. And in my opinion, I'd like to see as much information as we can get before making a decision on this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nicol, anything to add? Okay,
Verify me.
yeah, Councillor Larry.
This been asked since mid last summer, and I feel for the people that asked for it, that they're waiting for an answer, and we keep kicking the can. Now the municipality gave us their opinion, the expert opinion, and 65 is what it's worth as an additional lot. So I would be in favor to sell it at that price. It is a professional assessment that was not on it. We should move with this.
Okay, so
Just want
Councillor.
to add to that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor.
The 30,000 is a professional assessment too, and that turned out to be not. So I think, as I said, and as others have said, it's debatable whether it should be valued as a lot addition. There's a strong case to be made that it can be valued as a standalone lot, and that's why I'm suggesting that the value must be somewhere in the middle.
So at this point, I will just say, my opinion on the value is as Jamie said, we're the stewards for the public purse and the public land, and how much would I like the municipality to be paid for that lot? And the answer is as much as somebody is willing to pay. So the maximum value to the individual who wants to purchase it. Like it's our job to do the best that we can on these land sales, and I tend to agree that that's when you're looking at 46 feet of water frontage on that wall. Not right.
I know there's, it's 140.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm looking at riverfront, I'm sorry. And you're looking at 140 feet of waterfront on the Upper Sturgeon River. There's a value to that piece of land. So there are three options at this point, as I can see it. Well, Councillor Gagne has put forward that we amend to $3.99 per square foot. So the three options are sell it at the evaluation, don't sell it, or agree on a price other than what the evaluation is, whether it's lower or higher. So, or I guess there's four options, as Councillor Restola has said, get more information, including an up-to-date survey. My question for staff on that point would be, would survey give us any, would you expect much change from what we see here on the survey on page 81?
A survey will not change the lot lines. What we would ask for would be a, more of a site plan indicating what the actual buildable, your lot lines don't move, but the actual space and the high water mark is not really established on there, so we have to establish where the high water mark is. If there's any erosion there, because the closest point, the setbacks are calculated from the water's edge.
Okay.
So we just don't know where that is right now.
Okay, so we figure out how to get to where we need to. I'll put it this, who is in favor of selling the land at the evaluation provided at $65,000? Okay. Who's in favor of not proceeding to sell the lot at all at this point? Okay. No, we had a proposal to do the sale at, and I don't have the math, but we'll go at the $3.99 per square foot. Who's in favor of that?
What's the total for that?
It'll be less than 65,000. It would be
55.
Yeah.
It would be, yes, because it would be $3.99 times 13,939. 56.
55.6. Okay, who'd be in favor of selling the lot at 55.6? Two.
Let me make a proposal.
Yes.
I will say what I said again. I propose that we go right in the middle and we sell the lot for 95,000. I will avoid having to do a survey, which is expensive. And I think at 95,000, I think my feeling is that we will have been compensated enough.
Okay, so the proposal on the table to proceed with sale at $95,000. Who's in favor of that?
I just have a question.
Okay, so
Just for clarification, is that 95 as a standalone lot? Is that?
no, 95
as
as a
the-
lot addition to.
So there's no option for standalone? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, it would require, I think, a lot more work on the part of staff. I think Councillor Fairbank's proposal is to sell it to the proponent who's approached the municipality at $95,000, and at that point.
And sorry, if I can just add, selling it as a standalone lot, we have to factor those, possibly estate agent fees, possibly a survey. So are we gonna get that much more if we sell it for 120 after we pay the real estate?
I'm just looking for clarity.
Yeah, so 95 as a lot addition to the proponent that's approaching this. is what's on the table. So I'd see a show of hands in favor. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rivard.
Sorry, thank you through you, just because I just purchased a property that's not in my property. I didn't consolidate the pins.
Yeah.
Will a lot addition?
Have to consolidate. Yeah. And that would come back, that would be written into the bylaw, that would come back. So that's,
I'm not saying that I don't. You should, it's just, it's a boathouse, so it's different.
Yeah.
It's fine, man. This is a lot addition, that should be one big lot, it should be, so. Well, if we sold.
okay, so the proposal on the table is 95 to the proponent who's applied with the condition that there is a pin consolidation. Okay, so who would be in favor of that? Okay, I need to count. Yeah, keep your hands up.
It's 4. It's not. Oh.
No, I will break the tie on that. Like, because that gets us to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that,
Or 5.
okay. So that gets us to a decision. Okay. We good with that? We good with that? You'll bring a.
Well, so
Yeah,
the next,
yeah.
obviously,
See
the
whether.
next step is I will approach I will go back to the proponent. If they're agreeable to the price, then we'll enter into the then we'll come back with it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much. Okay. Thankfully, we've already done the water and sewer budget. So we will move to the regular portion of the meeting, please.
It is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the council and committee of the whole meeting of January the 6th, 2026 be approved as presented.
No, we have regular meeting. You just read the closing. Oh, you said, did you say consent agenda? I thought you said adjournment. Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Ferre.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the minutes of the last council meeting.
Okay, so we need to pull the minutes of December 16th out. I need a seconder on that. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, seconder to pull the minutes of December 16th out of the consent agenda, please. Councilor Gagne, all in favor, questions or comments, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so original resolutions on the table, save the December 16th minutes. All in questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Back to the minutes of December the 16th.
Yes, please.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne, our Councillor Ferran, seconded by Councillor Gagne. Be it resolved that the minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting held on December the 16th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to propose an amendment. I have submitted it. Would you read it or will you read it?
You'll need to propose it and you'll need a seconder for you.
I'd just like to, item 611. At the sentence, Councillor Ferrand also raised the issue of bilingual signage. I'd like to add and suggested that the English only signs were in direct contravention of the municipality's own bylaw 2020-08 concerning the use of English and French. Council directed staff to rectify the situation and post the French version of each sign alongside the English ones. I just think if we are going to direct staff, I think that has to be properly minuted with the reason.
Okay. Seconder for the amendment, please. Councillor Pellerin. Okay, questions or comments on the amendment? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
It's so I'll just read it. The minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting December 16th, 2025 be adopted as amended. Yes.
6.2 new business, please.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Restool. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2026-01, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing to levy interim taxes for the year 2026, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Restool. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2026-02, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing to authorize the borrowing of funds to meet municipal expenditures, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Restool and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas council considered a proposed policy governing the use of remotely piloted aircraft system drones at its meeting of December the 16th, and whereas council is supportive of adopting a formal policy, be it resolved that council hereby adopts the remotely piloted aircraft systems policy for the municipality of West Nipissing, and be it further resolved that the policy be added to the West Nipissing Policy Manual.
Questions, comments? All carried. Which,
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Restool. Whereas council supports the designation of community safety zones along Highway 64 in the villages of Field, Lebbing, and Verner, and including Highway 539 in the village of River Valley. Be it resolved that council for the municipality of West Nipissing directs staff to proceed with the required application and approval processes to implement community safety zones, including the installation of bilingual signage within the urban service areas of Field, Lebbing, Verner, and River Valley, where applicable.
questions or comments? Councillor?
Comment, it's 539A.
I know.
About
530.
539, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Does that need an amendment or are you happy with this housekeeping? Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you for that, Councillor Larrabee.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Be it resolved that council hereby authorizes temporary extension of the existing fee waiver for the Cache Bay United Seniors 50 Club for the purpose of bingo sessions scheduled in January and February 2026, while council and staff complete the review of the discretionary grant applications for the 2026 fiscal year. And be it further resolved that this temporary extension is provided on an interim basis only and does not constitute approval of the organization's 2026 discretionary grant application, which will be considered by council at a subsequent meeting as part of the full discretionary grant process.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gagne?
Did we get the application from the 50 club? Yes, okay, thank you. That's it.
Other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? That's carried, thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Whereas municipal infrastructure, including roads, bridges, water, and wastewater systems, is essential. I can not read it. The next one's worse.
Oh, wow, okay.
Whereas municipal infrastructure, including roads, bridges, water, and wastewater systems, is essential to public safety, economic stability, and quality of life in Ontario's rural, northern, and small urban communities. And whereas Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund was established to assist small and rural municipalities that face infrastructure renewal pressures exceeding their local fiscal capacity. And whereas in recent years, the province has increasingly relied on current replacement value data as the primary determinant of the OCIF allocations, with future allocations to be based solely on current replacement value submissions. And whereas the exclusive reliance on CRV-based allocation methodology has resulted in significant ongoing funding declines for many small, rural, and northern municipalities, including the municipality of West Nipissing, despite continuing and growing infrastructure needs. And whereas municipalities experiencing staffing constraints, limited technical capacity, and legacy asset data challenges may be disproportionately impacted by current replacement value-based funding models, resulting in inequitable outcomes related to actual service demands or infrastructure risk. And whereas rising construction costs, labor shortages, inflationary pressures, and climate resilience requirements have substantially reduced the purchasing power of the existing OCIF funding levels, and whereas predictable, stable, and equitable provincial funding infrastructure funding is critical to long-term.
Someone stop her. It's important stuff.
Sorry.
To long-term asset management planning, fiscal sustainability, and the avoidance of deferred maintenance or emergency infrastructure failures. Be it resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality calls on the Government of Ontario to review the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund allocation methodology to ensure that it fairly reflects the needs and realities of the small, rural, and northern municipalities. And two, that the province be requested to reconsider the exclusive reliance on current replacement value as the sole determinant of OCIF allocations, and to incorporate additional factors such as municipal capacity, geographic scale, climate exposure, service responsibility, and rural equity considerations. And three, that the Government of Ontario be urged to maintain and enhance OCIF funding envelope beyond 2026, ensuring that allocations keep pace with inflation, construction cost escalation, and long-term infrastructure sustainability. And four, the Ministry of Infrastructure be requested to provide transitional measures or safeguards to prevent sudden or disproportionate funding reductions resulting from methodological changes or data submission challenges. And five, the province be encouraged to engage municipalities and municipal associations in formal review of the OCIF program and funding allocation framework with transparent communication regarding future funding assumptions. And be it further resolved that the council be directed to forward this resolution to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Kinga Stuma, Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Ontario Small Urban Municipalities, and all Ontario municipalities.
Can we add Phenom to that list? Oh, sure. I apologize. That was very well done, Madam Clerk. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that resolution? Councillor Rivard?
I missed number 2, Monsieur Poulet sneezed.
Yes,
It was very well done. I just want to say thank you.
and now in French, please. All in favor? Carries one more, just like that one.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellenay. Whereas the province of Ontario has posted Environmental Registry of Ontario proposal ERO 025-1257, proposing to consolidate Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 large regional agencies and to establish a new provincial oversight body. And whereas the Conservation Authorities Act enables municipalities to establish local watershed-based conservation authorities, and where municipalities choose to do so, they assume responsibility for governance and funding through the appointment of board members and the provision of municipal levies. And whereas conservation authorities have been locally governed and municipally funded for decades, allowing for programs and services to be tailored to local watershed conditions, risks, community priorities, while maintaining accountability to municipal councils and ratepayers. And whereas conservation authorities deliver essential frontline services, including flood forecasting and warning, natural hazard management, permitting environmental stewardship, and the protection and management of conservation lands. And whereas conservation authorities collectively own and manage significant conservation lands and assets, many of which are donated or acquired with the expectation that they will be held, protected, and managed locally by government governed watersheds-based authorities for the benefit of the public. And whereas proposed consolidation into the large regional agencies and the creation of a new top-down provincial structure raises concerns regarding the loss of local accountability and representation, disruption to critical services, uncertainty around funding and cost apportionment, and the protection of locally funded assets and donor entrusted lands. And whereas municipalities and conservation authorities have noted that no detailed cost-benefit analysis, governance framework, or implementation plan has been released to demonstrate that the proposed restructuring would improve efficiency or service delivery. Be it resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality calls on the Government of Ontario to maintain local independent municipally governed watershed-based conservation authorities, ensuring strong local representation in decisions related to municipal levies, community-focused service delivery, and the protection and management of conservation lands. And be it further resolved that the Municipality of Ontario supports provincial objectives related to consistent permitting processes, shared services, and digital modernization. Council does not support achieving these objectives through the imposition of a new centralized or regional governance structure that would create unnecessary cost, bureaucracy, and reduced responsiveness to local watershed and community needs. Be it further resolved that the municipality supports efforts to strengthen expertise, capacity, and program delivery across Ontario through collaboration and urges the province to work directly with municipalities and conservation authorities rather than through consolidation. And be it further resolved that the province of Ontario respects the long-standing governance role and financial contributions of municipalities and conservation authority operations. And be it resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, local members of Parliament, Association and Municipality of Ontario, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, relevant conservation authorities, Conservation Ontario, and other interested stakeholders.
Okay, questions or comments? Councilor Pellerin.
Juste une question. Il y a eu, s'il ferait le changement, ça changerait-tu quelque chose pour nous autres en fait de. Parce que comme c'est là, la municipalité, on ne paye pas là-dedans. Mais s'ils font les changements qu'ils veulent changer, ça peut nous affecter. Ils peuvent nous forcer.
Pas de nous autres. Parce que pour nous autres, la conservation est faite seulement des inspections pour les septic systems. Mais dans la ville de North Bay, il y a une autre. La ville de North Bay est dans une watershed. West Nipissing n'est pas dans une watershed, so on n'a pas des conservation lands qui est désigné par la province ici, excepté les Cache Bay wetlands. Mais notre terrain conservation n'est pas issu de l'autorité de Fremantle Conservation Authority.
Merci. Des autres questions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Sorry, we do need a resolution to extend curfew, please. I know, you took your jacket off. I'll take a mover and a seconder to extend curfew, Larrabee and the Hearts. And I'll remind you that this does need to pass by 2/3 majority, which would be 6 of us.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Rivard at approximately 9:35 p.m. A motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
Okay. Questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. 6.2.8.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin, seconded by Councillor Gagne, whereas the Ministry of the Solicitor General has approved $135,809 in funding under the Ontario Fire Protection Grant for the Municipality of West Nipissing. Be it resolved that Council authorizes the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer to execute the Ontario Fire Protection Grant Transfer Payment Agreement, including all scheduled and related documents.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Oh, sorry. Questions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. I won't take long for the mayor's report. First of all, I do want to mention that our next meeting of council is rescheduled from Tuesday, January 20th to instead Thursday, January 22nd. And that is because several of us will be attending the Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference in Toronto for a couple of days. It is we're excited to participate in now 3 confirmed delegations with ministries, including the Minister of Health, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in relation to seniors affordable housing project, and with the Ministry of Infrastructure in relation to the Verner Water Project. So those are active files that we keep kind of pushing forward on. We look forward to those meetings, and we're still waiting to hear back from a couple others to have either confirmed or declined as far as our delegations requests. So we could still get one or two more. With that, I will close the meeting and look forward to seeing you all back on.
It is moved by Counselor Gagne and seconded by Counselor Pavet. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2026-03, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing, to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on January the 6th, 2026, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Counselor Pavet and seconded by Counselor Gagne. Be it resolved that the council and committee of the whole meeting held on January the 6th be adjourned.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yes, we all.